All right, let's talk about classical music. You've definitely heard it before, for sure, maybe in a movie, a commercial, or even a video game. But what is it, really? Well, today we're going to crack the code on the classical era. We'll figure out what makes the music of Mozart and his buddies so timeless. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to nail down what classical music actually means. Then, we'll dive into its signature sound, which, you might be surprised, is all about simplicity. After that, we'll check out the cool new instruments and tricks they use to get all emotional. We'll see how they put together everything from tiny quartets to massive symphonies. And finally, we'll connect the dots and see why this stuff from like 250 years ago is still all over the place today. Okay, let's jump right in. First things first, what is classical music? To figure that out, we need to take a quick trip back in time and see exactly where it fits on the timeline. So, check this out. The classical period, which is roughly 1750 to 1820, is kind of like the filling in a musical sandwich. Before it, you had the Baroque era, super complex, super ornate, just a lot going on. After it, you got the Romantic era, all about high drama and intense emotion. The classical composers were basically reacting to all that Baroque stuff and saying, whoa, let's simplify. They wanted to make music that was cleaner, more balanced, and honestly, just easier to listen to. And this is a really big deal. At the same time, music started to go public. See, before this, music was mostly a private thing for kings and queens in their fancy palaces. But then, the middle class started to grow, and they wanted in on the action. So you see this huge demand for public concerts. Cities like Vienna became these epicenters of music, and concert halls started popping up, opening up music for, well, pretty much everyone. Okay, so music is going public. How does that change the sound of the music? Well, let's get into it. We're going to uncover the secret behind those super catchy classical melodies. All right, the big word for this new sound is homophony. I know, it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually incredibly simple. It just means you have one single main melody, the part you can hum along to, and everything else is just background. All the other instruments are just playing chords to support that main tune. The melody is the star, period. And this was a massive change from what came before it. Back in the Baroque era, they used something called polyphony. Just think of it as multiple melodies all happening at once, all fighting for your attention. It could get pretty crowded. Classical music just cleaned all that up. By having just one main melody, the music instantly became less cluttered and way easier to follow. And you know this structure. I promise you do. Just think about almost any pop song you love. You have the singer carrying the main melody, and the rest of the band is in the background playing chords to back them up. Right? That is exactly what homophony is. It's crazy to think, but the blueprint for a modern hit song was pretty much figured out over 250 years ago. So, besides that one main melody, the other magic word was balance. Composers were obsessed with symmetry. They would create these musical phrases that felt like a question, and then they'd immediately follow it up with a phrase that felt like an answer. And they'd be the same length, super balanced. It makes the music feel really logical, really stable, and just satisfying to listen to. But don't get the wrong idea. Simple and balanced does not mean boring. Not at all. These composers wanted to pack in a ton of feeling and drama, and lucky for them, they got some help from some seriously cool new technology. Okay, the number one game changer, the piano. The main keyboard before this was the harpsichord, and it had one major limitation. It could only play at one volume, basically loud. But the piano, which was first called the pianoforte, could play soft, which is piano in Italian, and loud, which is forte. This was revolutionary. It wasn't just about getting some variety, it completely changed the emotional possibilities of music. You could have a whisper, you could have a roar, and everything in between. And with this new control over volume, composers developed a couple of favorite tricks. You have the crescendo, where the music gradually gets louder, and the decrescendo, where it gets gradually softer. So instead of just jumping between quiet and loud, they can now build suspense, create tension, or fade away dramatically. It added this whole new emotional layer they could play with. The orchestra itself also got a huge upgrade. It got bigger, often over 50 musicians, and it became more standardized. Think of it like building a team. You had the strings, your violins, cellos, as the heart of the sound. Then you added the woodwinds, flutes, clarinets, for different tonal colors. The brass instruments brought the power, and the timpani drums laid down the rhythm. This whole setup, it's pretty much the same exact blueprint that symphony orchestras use today. So now you've got these bigger orchestras and bigger ideas. Composers needed a way to keep it all organized.
especially when writing longer pieces. So, they came up with some musical blueprints to keep everything on track.
And the most important blueprint of them all was called sonata form. The easiest way to think about it is like a three-part story. Part 1 is the exposition. This is where you meet the main characters, which are the musical themes. Part 2 is the development. This is the adventure part, where the themes get twisted, changed, and mixed up. And finally, Part 3 is the recapitulation, where the main themes come back home, giving you that nice, tidy, satisfying ending. But it wasn't all about giant orchestras. Composers also wrote a lot of chamber music, which was meant for smaller rooms and smaller groups. The most popular kind by far was the string quartet. That's 2 violins, a viola, and a cello. And it really was like listening in on an intimate conversation between 4 people, where every single person's voice was just as important as the others.
Okay, so all of this was happening centuries ago. Why should we care now? Simple, because that music and all the ideas we've been talking about are still a massive part of the world you live in today. No, seriously, why does this matter to you? Because the musical rules they wrote, the structures they built, that's the foundation for so much of the music that you stream, that you love every single day. I mean, you hear this stuff everywhere, in those huge, epic movie soundtracks, in the music for your favorite video games, in commercials that are trying to make you feel something. Even here it's sampled in pop and hip-hop tracks. That core idea of a clear melody over some chords, that's not just some old-fashioned thing. It's how most hit songs are built today. You could say they literally wrote the dictionary for how to use music to create emotion.
So, I want to leave you with a little challenge. The next time you're listening to music, whatever it is, listen a little closer. See if you can hear that classical blueprint. Can you pick out that main melody and the chords supporting it? Just think about it for a second. Which of your favorite songs has a little bit of that classical DNA hiding inside?